Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's virtual business case in partnership with Tulip and Pirelli. My name is Daniel Phillips, CEO here at Industry IoT, joining you live from our offices here in London. First of all, let me just say, we know how valuable your time is. You're very busy people, so thank you for being here with us today. Please get comfortable, as we'll soon be diving into the conversation to discuss how the right tech stack will improve agility and empower your frontline workforce. We'll talk through some case studies highlighting how digital augmentation has led to retention and increased productivity, and also discuss the steps that you can start to take to immediately augment your workforce. Now, before we get into it, we actually launched a poll on this topic to our LinkedIn network here at Industry IoT. We have north of 60,000 connections and a big community platform. And as you can see, the question was, what will be manufacturers' top operational priority for this year? There's clearly a front runner, empowering the workforce. So I'd be very, very interested to see what Eddie and Ilka have to say on this topic. I know that we have an interactive presentation. We have roughly 60 minutes, and we are going to leave some time for some questions at the end. But I'll hand over to you, Eddie, to get started. I'll remove myself from the stream for the time being, and I'll reappear again towards the end as we take some questions from the audience. But over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Eddie Atkins, part of Tulip. So I'm working with a range of manufacturing customers on digitization of their shop floors and driving value from digital use cases and digital apps. From small SMEs in, say, like the boating, building boats, up to life science customers, multinational life science customers. So we have a whole range. My background is in manufacturing. I'm a manufacturing geek. I'm kind of driven by improvement of processes, and I think that throughout my life, I've always sort of seen the human element to improvement being super important. So excited to be here today and talk with Ilka a bit more around this topic. Ilka, over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Eddie. Good morning, everyone. I joined from Rome, Georgia, where we have a manufacturing plant in US. Pirelli, 19 plants around the world, and I have nearly 20 years of manufacturing and operations experience. So we had a good chat before this meeting with Eddie. I believe we have a lot of common ground on lean implementation, putting all manufacturing operators in the first place and try to solve their problems, not only with the lean implementation, but also now the digital tools that we have. So I believe that we will have a nice discussion in the next an hour or so.
Yeah, very good. I appreciate it, and appreciate everyone being here. And please, ask questions. We'll have some time at the end. I think the plan, we're breaking the agenda out into three parts. So the first would be to just look at the current state of manufacturing. Why do we think this is a important topic? Why is it relevant? Secondly, moving on to some examples of how we see this fitting with our customer base, and then Ilka will bring in some of his examples from the work he's doing. So excited to share to you there. And then finally, just a bit of perspective of pulling this together. If you want to get sort of started on some of these topics, how you could actually do that and empower your frontline workers. So let's get started. So the state of manufacturing, and I think for everyone, if any of these three things are a surprise, I don't know which part of the world that you're living in, but I'd love to be there. Inflationary pressures across all aspects of the business, 10% plus in the UK. For me, supply chain disruptions, since or even before COVID, these very difficult events that we have to deal with and start to think about in different ways. And then, as we heard from the groups that are from Daniel earlier, the group here particularly is a skilled worker challenge. How do we retain and keep good quality folks, both at the shop floor level up to the senior plant manager level, to really want to be in manufacturing and drive and get excited by that problem solving? So we are going to focus on this third one today, because I think it's for me a particular passionate element, and I think something we can use technology and use this sort of the revolution we're going through at the moment to really help engage and help you as businesses to have some better retention around that. So maybe Ilka, I know this is a topic that's particularly on your mind. That's why you wanted to join with us today. Would love to just quickly hear early on here, like how have you been experiencing the triple squeeze and specifically the skilled worker challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting down yesterday with the president of Chamber of Commerce of Floyd County, where we are. And basically in United States, you know that unemployment rate is 3.3, 3.4% in the historical lows. But in where we are now, we are under 2% of unemployment. So basically you're not able to find not even the, how we call here, the bodies, instead of comparing with the skills and so on. And you know what? The inflation that is on the other side of the chart is not helping us to find and attract the people as well. So the ones that we have, we really make sure that we are keeping them because they are bringing all the experience and history of the company. But in order to grow, you really need to come up with either shop floor operators or process engineers or data scientists so that you will move your organization to the next step. So in this case, what I'm finding out is that we go to the basically market, very limited resources, and the ones that you have, in order to attract them, you really need to come up with very innovative ways with the HR team. So what we are recently doing is that we start second-year university from Georgia Tech, and we start giving them some scholarships to make sure that not for next month, next year, but in 2 to 3 years time, we are booking their graduation. So it is looking like we really need to make sure that we are anticipating this availability of the people.
Interesting. Getting in there early. I like it, Ilka. So yeah, exactly. A very relevant story, and that I think it would resonate with everyone, hopefully on the call that's in the manufacturing as at the moment. I think today, we're going to get more into how can we really use a tech stack or approach to technology to really impact, improve agility, empower your frontline workers, but how make a better work environment, but then in the long run also enable your businesses to be more successful. I think I was pretty interested by this quote from one of the recent Deloitte study. So companies with a higher level of digital maturity are able to show greater resilience and are able to those continued investments that they have in manufacturing technology can actually help develop that agility that they required. And I think this was pretty telling, and I think that can that Deloitte are starting to see this, and I think we'll show a lot of this in our explanations today as well. So I think maybe just to start, some of the observations that I have on the way work is really changing, and hopefully you see these too, the generational shift. So, I mean, as the new generations are coming into manufacturing, they're not just tech savvy workers. They really are tech native. They really are don't know anything else. They come having grown up with iPhones and iPads, and technology is just completely native to the way they work, and almost expect that in the work environment as well. Secondly, digital transformation. Businesses we're working with, and Ilka will tell us more about the work he's been doing on digital transformation. It is an opportunity to create productivity improvement, but I think also what we'll try and show today is a way of actually engaging and making the work environment for the employee, whether it's the frontline worker or the process engineer, actually more fulfilling and better. And finally, the challenge, we came through COVID, when remote became a thing that became acceptable. I think that it is when you work in a tech environment like I do, many of our people are very remote, and I think that I'm seeing that with our manufacturers as well that we work with, that actually they're working much more remotely. People are able to add value when they're not just on the shop floor in the plant. And how do you manage that? How do you use it to your advantage? And would love to get some of your experiences, Ilka, around that later on. So I think if we need to reinforce why we're talking about this, and not just Ilka and I, but also you people, everyone that's joined us today that was like interested in this topic. Also, 30% of the executives see this as or manufacturing executives that were surveyed see this by Deloitte, see this as a strategic priority for 2023. So, retaining existing talent being the top, maintaining competitive wage and benefit packages, providing advancement opportunities, providing continuous skill and development. And I think like a approach of really enabling and engaging this with tech can really help achieve some of these strategic priorities that these executives are saying is important, and I think maybe you are as well. And finally, how there's a slightly different story at the different levels of the organization. So what am I talking about there? I think if we start in the middle here with the operators, and how they what they expect. We talked a bit about new joiners wanting becoming digital native, expecting an iPhone, etc. But then if we move maybe to the other angle, so the process engineer, how do we make it exciting for our process engineers to want to come and join manufacturing? How does that problem solving, how do we make them feel empowered that they can actually solve problems with digital technology? And finally, on the plant manager end, how can we give maybe these people who have not so tech native, give them experience, help them feel comfortable with tech? How do they have the skills to bring that effectively into their operations and drive work alongside these very smart, very fast moving kind of digital native workers that expect technology and actually give them what they want? So maybe Ilka, can you speak a bit how your workforce is transitioning? I know we spoke a bit before about how you're this new tech that you're getting from tech schools, how you're integrating it into the different generations. Would love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, in my factory, but all the factories around the world, I guess you guys will be giving me more examples. I count recently 5 different generations, so late 60s to early 20s. I have different generational challenges. And each of them has, think a bit of an late 60s operator or even a process engineer. He really didn't have even more than a fax, I guess, when he started or she started to work. And I guess, I don't know if 20 years old understands what the complicated life of a person with the fax and then many other steps now with the tablets and all the algorithms that we have in the background. So basically, our target is always putting the people in the middle of the, let's say, operations. And basically, the simple stuff is I'd like to make sure that I will have a better process than yesterday. How do I do this one? I put very experienced people. I'll also put some data scientists, but also I'd like to make sure that we are always trying to understand how we can improve our process. To do this one, there are many methodologies, but I believe that if you are taking a look at the operations, people are really taking care of their product and their processes. How to improve it? If you don't have a stable process and you try to digitalize it, unfortunately, you are not able to bring value to the shop floor. So I would always recommend to anybody not to forget your lean and TPM cap with you. So when you're on the shop floor, start with HSE, basic quality standards, and make sure that you start with a very clean and lean process. As soon as you have this one, with this level of market, you cannot ignore the digitalization. So it's another thing that we realize. So that's why we need to put few generations together. But it's not about the generations. It's much more how you want to drive your operations. Where are your priorities? In order to stay competitive, basically, today, I guess you are not able to not implement digital and stay in the business. So this is what I've seen with few of our competitors, with huge operations around the world, and they are not able to bring their competitiveness in the level that we have today. So these are the few things that came to my mind, but I'd like you one more example. So we put a challenge to have 3 clicks just to put myself or an operator in front of a problem. So basically, let's take a simple quality problem. In an assembly line, you have an defect. You call it anything you want. I call it, let's say, the tire has a visual defect. And in this case, I'd like to make sure that in 3 clicks, I would like to understand and see a photo of it. And it shouldn't be 5 clicks. It shouldn't be, let's say, 300 yards of walk. It should be where I am with my device, and I need to understand it. And this information goes to me, to my shift leader, production director, but also to the operators as well. So in this case, it's not a problem solving only for the shop floor operators or for myself, but also data scientists as well. So we would like to make sure that we are able to reach the data very, very quickly to solve the problem. So this was a very interesting exercise from ourselves.
Yeah.
And the data scientists also find themselves in a different organization, and also they manage to create value to the company as well.
Yeah, I like if I hear what you're saying. I like you're actually bringing these different levels, these new folks together, and how not losing the getting the data scientist on the shop floor and seeing the real life, doing the problem solving, but then also keeping it simple, stupid as well with your 3 clicks thing. I really like that as a kind of mentality, just to let's make this as simple as possible for everyone, and then it can quickly add value. So very powerful. Thanks, Ilka. So I think let's move on a bit to actually, building on sort of Ilka's example there. How can the right tech stack empower your frontline worker? So how can we actually do this? So I think, Ilka, you're sort of talking about it in your example, and I start to see many of our customers that are successful taking a very similar approach to you as well, where this, and actually I don't know if it's a new approach really, coming from a lean background, this is the kind of, it feels the same normal to me really. So like this human-centric approach that leverages these new digital manufacturing technologies to give me like the next step change in productivity, augmenting my workers, empowering their decision making, and continuously improving their work experience. And I can't quite believe how well this fits your example you just shared, Ilka, as I read through it. So it's exciting to hear. And I think, as we all come from a lean background, this human-centric approach in how you tackle your technology deployment, I think, starts in one very simple place. And that simple place is like, what is your operational pain point? Like, where is improvement going to happen for you? Like, is that on a quality topic? Is it on getting real-time visibility so you can respond to your health and safety issues, for example? What is that for you? And I think that, like, doing technology for shiny technology's sake is still not going to make any advantage. It's not going to help. The acceptance of it is not going to be there. So you're not going to create any value. So I think that's always the first thing that I think about. Let's move on to maybe some examples. So actually, how can technology help you with the skilled worker challenge? How can it help you and/or improve the operations with the same or less work? So how can we actually use it to make our operators more productive? And that's what we hear a lot about. So I think like lean has been around in terms of improvement for a long time. But traditional lean approaches still, you can end up with quite paper-based, quite sort of admin-based logging processes for operators. Whereas you can start to move to an agile tech approach where a lot of the data, a lot of the instructions the operator needs. If you're using an ERP system, you can actually connect your digital system to the ERP, and becomes a system that is at one with the operator and works for the operator, reducing the admin need, the admin burden for them, and having data in real time. Not only that, you can start to add error proofing, many more poker yolks before than you could with a purely physical based process. So you can very cheaply build error-proofing logic into the digital workflows that you're building to ensure that if a wrong value is entered, or doing getting someone to capture a photo to do an overcheck, so possible to really error-proof the processes. The next example here is like going from sort of pure productivity improvement to actually looking at how do you ramp up and onboard people in a much smarter way. And so a traditional approach, very maybe working shoulder shadowing, looking over someone's shoulder, a lot of coaching to really get that skill right, and might take a very long time for people to ramp up. So I think building on the first example, where actually you can digitize the process and error-proof it, so you actually can bring the sort of the difficulty of the process down and the challenge of the process. You can also have some like reinforcement and adaptability to the instructions that you're giving your operators. So leveraging the technologies to give less experienced operators more detailed instruction, more experienced operators less instructions, also being able to give them feedback in real time on whether they're doing the right job or not. So I think not only is it possible we see that people are able to skill up and enable workers by having these better digital instructions, but also be able to give a better experience for the person that is onboarding, because they know whether they're actually achieving the processes right as they're doing their work through the day. And thirdly is just the data that's created, and then the ability to use that to look at defects, for example. So often you will have an inspection process that might be catching defects, but maybe that's logging into an Excel sheet or even onto a paper, and someone reviews that data once a day or maybe even once a week. Your opportunity with sort of a digital technology, whether that's for defects in production or for the logging example that Ilka, you shared earlier, the possibility to have real-time data and real-time alerts off of in many more places across your facility allows you to respond and test for sort of defects or out of condition problems, and actually respond to those quicker and have less detrimental impact from those. So I think like three sort of areas where we're really seeing technology take an impact in this area. One being the productivity, second one being the onboarding and training times, and then the third one here being really the ability to respond to data and have many more control points throughout your process. So yeah, I think finally when manufacturing companies upskill and augment their frontline workforce, really we see they're helping their employees not only to work more comfortably with the technology that will satisfy their needs for more impact work. And I think ultimately we see them just gain a lot of agility from this, and that results in productivity improvement, reduced defects, and it's pretty, from the few examples I shared, it's quite exciting to work with customers that are doing this. This is like one customer I've worked a lot with is Stanley Black & Decker, and I think just sharing this, and we'll get some insight from Ilka in a minute on his side. But I think the people, as we go through any of this digital transformation work that we're doing and the technology, the quote here from Antonio where he says the people were the most important aspect, and actually here at SPD, the sites where they've been using no-code platforms to improve productivity, the ones that have been most successful is where the citizen developers have been the ones that have become the improvers for that technology. I'll show some examples of what those citizen developers have been doing in a minute, but maybe just to pause there and go over to you, Ilka, to just hear maybe a bit for you. So when you've seen, we see it with the people being the most sort of important as well, not just at SPD, but at many other customers. Wonder how you, from your perspective, you're seeing kind of the people engage, and what type of levers or what type of action you're taking to engage them, empower them to be able to do this digital transformation.
So basically, it's been more than a decade that in our plants we are implementing this safety our excellence in safety program, to make sure that our frequency index is going down or people are much more engaged. We are working with different consultants, with DuPont and some other, let's say, companies. But what happens is that recently we realized that in any area like safety, like quality, like any kind of competitiveness issues as well, if you're not able to add the digitalization impact, we are not able to speed up and arrive to the targets where we would like to be. So what we are recently implementing is that very simple tools. Basically, we really take the very simple automation tools from Microsoft Teams and so on, and all the shop floor paperwork, we would like to eliminate it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? This is coming from our shop floor people. So basically what they said is that, you know what? I'm spending first half hour of my shift on fulfilling paper that nobody will take a look at in the next 15 years. Then you will put it in a bunker and then burn them most probably. And then we said, well, I mean, these guys are in business from decades and decades, and they are right. So if I have to make a safety, quality, or handover checklist in a paper, what happens that is basically it's not creating the value that we look for. Instead, we moved everything recently on a tablet. Basically, operators have their tablets, and then when we have the shift change or any issues that they have or any kind of setup, they go through their checklist. And if they need to indicate an anomaly, it's not just a check of yes or no or non-conform or whatever. It triggers immediately an improvement cycle. So basically, these guys are living in front of the machine half of their time, and they know what's going on. And if they are able to give us an alert earlier, this is what we are looking for. So this is from one side, engaging more and more our shop floor force, but also using the force of digitalization to make sure that the problem-solving cycles are not longer and bigger. They are much smaller, and they are bringing us this iteration that we are looking for. So these are the very simple stuff that we are working in the recent months, but the impact is incredible, because otherwise you really need to have another dozen of clerks, people taking a look at this paperwork that you don't find it in the market, as we discussed before. And if you find them, it will be incredibly costly, and you won't get anywhere where you want to arrive. So day by day, especially working in the high cost, high competitive businesses like that we have, it basically is a very highly saturated industry. In most of our cases, most probably the same. So I strongly recommend to take a look at what you have already seen from Eddie's slides, but also any kind of small pain points that you see, and then start implementing the digitalization. I believe at the very beginning you really need some help. I mean, if you're a small, medium business with some 100 or 200 operators in a factory, and you cannot call maybe headquarters and get a lot of support, I guess that is where you need simple helps. But you don't need to launch a digital transformation program, a huge kickoffs and millions of euros of budget. But I prefer that you get some help from some consultants that you may feel comfortable with. I believe that Tulip has, in this case, some good ideas that already Eddie shared with you. Anything, anybody, but then you need to have a small smart manufacturing team as well inside the team of your shop floor. In this case, you'll make sure that the operators are helping you identify the problems, and you kick off your problem-solving cycle.
Yeah, very interesting. I think it's we can touch a bit more on. I'm sure we'll get some more questions on the setup in a minute, Michael. But very, very interesting. So I think moving I think the people. It's interesting to hear how you're engaging your team as well and bringing the people together. I think moving on here a bit to this continuing example on our side. This was the application that was deployed for Oscar with Oscar was I think his statement here, the day she introduced the app to us, it became so fast. So talking about Sophia who built this app for them, and I'll share some more about her in a second. But it was built with him to solve this problem they had on transparency. And you can see the app in the background there. This is tracking work orders, but it was also, we were able to iterate it very quickly. So she built something, but then very quickly, in a matter of weeks, had changed it 30 or almost every day to fulfill their feedback, both of Oscar, but also the other people that were using this work tracking application. So yeah, we're going to move on to a poll. We'd just like to get a bit of feeling for when if you've identified a pain point in your frontline operations, how long does it take to implement some changes to solve this pain point? And I think we're probably specifically thinking about technology solutions, what's your sort of agile deployment cycle like? And Daniel's going to pop up the poll.
Yeah, Eddie, the poll is now live. 1 to 2 months and 3 to 6 months are currently at 50% each.
Okay. So that's good. That's pretty good. Good speed. I like it. Nobody with really long time frames. And anyone yet, Daniel, doing at either ends of the spectrum?
No, actually. So 3 to 6 months has taken the lead at 71%. Nobody has selected 6 months plus. So it's currently still between 1 to 2 months and 3 to 6 months.
So good. This is obviously a trick question. So just to sort of show, this is Sophia, who is one of the citizen developers at SPD. She built the application and actually had the first one running in production in 2 weeks' time, and then over a 4-week period iterated it to get to sort of a final solution. And that's really, I think, when how did that happen? Probably is the question. And really, this is around using a no-code platform to actually be able to build something very quickly that fits the use case, almost as quickly as she could build something in PowerPoint or in Excel, and get that in and get that tested and get that running, and then start iterating from there. So I think a very really starting to see tech platforms that you're able to implement stuff very, very quickly as well. And I think that also comes down to a bit of how you scope what you want to do, and you're able to implement something quickly and actually iterate and move on from there as well. I just want to wrap this up. So what does this sort of tie this together and say, what does this look like in action? And I think before we jump into this, I just why are we talking about this today? Why are we seeing this maybe change in manufacturing technology and this speed of deployment and technology be able to enable this? So this perspective from Brian, and it's worth a listen if you want to sort of learn a bit more about this topic, but he's talking about what happened in the cloud when cloud hit the world, basically. So United Airlines, they had a network server and they had a file server, they had a database, but they had it all on-prem. Then Amazon Web Services, the cloud, comes along and they have the same. They have a database, a network server, a file server. It's like nothing has changed, is what he says. And it's true. But what has changed with the cloud is that how that system is managed, how that file server is managed, how that database is managed. And he talks a lot more about his company and his perspective there, and it's really worth a listen to go and get deeper. But when you log on to manage a server in AWS, if it goes down, you can create a new one very quickly, or you have replicas that are running that you never lose any database information because you're able to spin up new replicas. And this is all being managed through no-code interfaces. You no longer have to be a technician on site that's managing a server and running command line interfaces to work with that server and make sure it's all configured properly. It's all done through Amazon Web Services platform, which has many no-code configurations. So the actual skill level needed to manage all this infrastructure dropped off as well. So that's why the cloud we can actually be all talking to you on this nice platform with and we all got connected over LinkedIn is all being enabled by this technology, because all of these providers don't have to run all their own servers and manage all their own servers. It's being done for them. And we're starting to see that transition in manufacturing and the way technology is deployed in manufacturing. So to have as an example facility like this with a series of apps running, firstly, you don't have to have a IT organization in your facility that is running lots of servers to make these apps work and databases to make these apps work. That is now can be managed by cloud providers and professional engineers. So that takes maybe one of your recruiting constraints in terms of not needing to find really experienced developers or IT personnel to look after all this new technology that you need to run. Secondly, the development of the applications, the skill level is coming down. No code is becoming more and more prevalent in the solution. So all these apps can be built by your existing process engineers, and not your not necessarily, again, needing to hire which is sort of the most toughest folks to hire is engineers and developers. But not only that, you actually speed up your development cycles, because the process engineers already know your processes inside out. If they can digitize themselves, they can do that at a much faster rate. Sort of. And then finally, as like all of these apps are collecting data when they're running, your machines are connected, collecting data, and this is where the sort of power of cloud and technology comes in. And I think how you can really I suppose has a force multiplier of your process engineers. So no longer do you have to have somebody that's like every week doing an analysis in Excel to calculate your quality issues and your quality levels. Your data, so you can have a data scientist, a process engineer do that analysis once, and it runs updates almost in real time with the information that's being collected by your applications. You can have it in dashboard views, whether that's in the plant or consolidating across multiple plants in a global fashion. And then as you find things you want to add, you can then start to iterate very quickly those analysis. And often the way I work with customers here is they definitely won't get the dashboard they want first time, but they will build it very quickly, and over a period of time they'll actually iterate through this very quickly. So it's pretty exciting to see how this works. And I think what we're coming back to kind of, I suppose, our lean roots, where we're used to this continuous improvement cycle. That's the customers I'm working with are really starting to are working in that way with their technology. So they're building digital solutions in matters of days, even hours in some cases, deploying them, running their processes, and then iterating those processes themselves. So they're improving, they're seeing areas maybe where they want to add something, to add additional error proofing, add some more better instructions for an operator so they don't make a mistake, and they're able to add these to the applications that they're building. And I think to your sort of to the point of the poll, like how long can this solutions take to implement? I mean, we put the 6 months plus on there because sort of many people are experienced of building an MES or an ERP deployment that takes maybe not even many months, but many years. But now really it is possible to go use case in a true sort of agile fashion and have deployments that run very quickly and have a much more ramp up, not only in terms of delivery, but I think most importantly, you start to see value very quickly early on. So Ilkka, anything to add here about how this fits the sort of process you're taking in your facilities and with your teams?
Yeah, basically when we launched 6 years ago our digital transformation program, we got a very, very strong digital team with a head of data science from Tesla. And what happened is that you guys know Pirelli is a 150 years of company. So we are very much in the, let's say, DNA of Pirelli. We have the shop floor and the industry. So lean was already very much there present. And we wanted to insert the, let's say, or merge the digital to make sure that we are getting the competitive advantage. And when some of our colleagues or consultants come up with the agile implementation, basically, I mean, from where I stand, it's a focused improvement, adding also digital tools so that you can get much quicker, you can reach to your targets much quickly. But then we had a lot of clash of culture. So what happened is that just the naming, basically. And in lean or Kaizen improvements, we are not doing something different than the agile, but the naming wasn't very well welcomed in the factories. So what we did is that instead of top down, we start inserting in each factory a group of smart manufacturing specialists. Basically, these are people or generally young generation having some coding skills and can help us with the data analytics. They are not necessarily data, I would say, the data scientists, because the data scientists are, if you try to put them in a factory environment, maybe they are not that happy and so on and so forth, and we may not be using them 100%. So what we did is that we created this structure, and today, in any Pirelli factory, in any kind of data analysis or problem solving, you always knock the doors of these people. So basically, we change a bit of the naming. We just make sure that it's becoming a bit more easy to adapt to our factories. But the agile implementation is helping us, as you guys are already indicated. I mean, you never have a problem of next 3 years. You have a lot of problems in the next 3 hours. And in the next 3 days, you need to close most of them. And basically, the big problems that can hit from competition, quality, or any other, you need to respond in 3 months. So I believe that you really need to have the skills, capabilities inside your organization. So that's why I strongly recommend to have the skills and competences that you already heard from Eddie in terms of digitalization. So you need to in-source these kind of skills into your organization. Depends on the size of your organization. Maybe you cannot have full-time people, but I strongly recommend that you start adding to your shop floor also digital skills that you would like to use in each problem-solving cycle.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Ilka. Fits very well. So maybe just to wrap this up before we have any plenty of time for questions, which is great. I think firstly, like we really believe that getting the right tech stack empowers the frontline worker and can create a great competitive advantage for you. So I think helping you with a better trained workforce, faster onboarding, improving productivity, efficiency, and quality of work, like helping you motivate your workforce to perform impactful tasks, and then I think what we've been talking about here is like bringing in the continuous improvement, building on existing continuous improvement approaches that you have, and bringing technology into that approach. And finally, like really, this will help you build a resilient workforce and be critical to your future success as a business. So finally, I think to keep in mind, it's a journey. Like actually, the get started quickly, but start small. Like don't go and try and swallow the whole elephant at once. I think in terms of flexibility, it's not going to go right first time. Think about how the real life situation and be flexible with the solutions that you're trying to put in place. Make sure that your changes stick. It's not always easy to do change. Like listen to the feedback, iterate, like help people through that change curve. But I think lastly, don't forget about putting the human at the center. Like they are like consider those people, build technology that's going to fit with their processes, make their work lives better, and help them solve problems quicker in your manufacturing environment, and help to drive improvement and business impact for you. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for listening. We have about 10 minutes just over for questions, which is great.
Yes, we have a couple waiting. Eddie, thank you for the great presentation. Ilka, thank you for your insights. Really, really interesting, guys. So yes, there have been a couple of questions. One from Michael Brandt, which I thought was quite interesting. do you use any type of behavioral assessment tools to help recruit people that you can develop? Systems like Infor's people answers?
I don't have so much experience at the operator level, but the process engineer level, like we work with a lot of customers to, like, when they're doing a transformation or changing processes, we do work with them on how do they set up their like digital and lean or organizations to do the work. And I think a few traits that we often look for in when we're recruiting those folks is so like we actually try and get them to do real life sort of improvement exercises and give them mini case studies on, like, here is a problem we have in our facility, how would you solve it with digital tools, and actually get them to say, in Tulip, we actually get them to build a few applications. And I think by doing that, you can very quickly see whether they have this kind of ability to sort of, one, understand what's going to be important to solve a problem and crack it, but two, also like the I suppose this ability just to get something done that works. And maybe it's not perfect, or maybe but can they actually build something quickly that's gonna add some value? And then thirdly, like, as we kind of test, like normally testing to see like how would they have they actually thought about how they would implement this and train, like, not just build the solution, but actually build it in a way that it's going to be adopted well, and what is needed to actually get it adopted. So maybe that's a bit of perspective on the process engineer side.
Thank you.
I then try to cover the part of the operators. So what we have is an hiring process. So basically, some any other process that you may have in your factory, like running a Calandra or running any other. We have very structured process. Sometimes it's becoming a very long journey to be hired in Pirelli. But basically, we have very simple KPIs that's saying that if in the next 3 to 6 months this person is still engaged with the suggestion system, bringing some HSE standards to the right level of know-how and so on. What we are seeing is that basically in the first 2 interviews, you already get a clear idea of if the person is interested in an industrial environment, if he or she is very willing to work with the complex robotized systems, or not very much into this one. So basically, we can realize it on the face-to-face interviews, but also running a small walk in the factory, saying that what are the anomalies that you see in this moment and where you want to improve. If the operator is not having the right eye to catch the anomalies and having an idea of improvement, most probably there's a good chance that that person may not be joining into the company. So this is what I'm generally taking a look at. So it's the operator level or the management level or engineers in general. That is the very basic question that I have in my mind. After an interview, let's go for a small walk, take a look at it, because in general, we are hiring already with some experience in terms of industrial environment. And I ask them, what would you like to improve here? And if the questions are coming up with some suggestion ideas, I believe that we have a good match. And eventually, of course, the performance, day-by-day performance in the next 3-6 months, but also years and years, are the ones that we are looking for. So attitude is one thing that we would like to have, absolutely. Then in terms of skills, especially hard skills, we have very good way of, let's say, step-by-step growing any person to a process engineer level. So basically, a young person from college comes in with some basic technical understanding, and then we are growing anybody in the next 3 to 5 years to a process engineer level.
Great, thank you. Ilka, a question for you. What has been your biggest win when speaking about employee empowerment through technology?
In my previous work, basically I was coordinating the process and engineering activities from Milano headquarters to all factories. So what happens is that I had, in that case, around 300 engineers around the world and then 100 something in the headquarters. and think about, COVID wasn't the best period of my life, but I learned a lot. And what we did is that, Daniel, in that period is that I need to move new products to the local market. So let's say in China, I need to launch a new product. This new product always brings challenges like launching new processes and machinery. So what happens during the COVID is that, few months ago, we were not able to fly to China. So if you remember, so what happens is that we make sure that we have everybody the Microsoft glasses or whatever device you want to have, that you put yourself in front of the process from your office from Milano or from United States, and the machine is to be installed in China. And you start moving the robot from United States, and you are moving the device on the Chinese plant. So what we did is that a huge interaction between the plants from headquarters or among the plants, so that if you're not able to move physically people and engineers, let's say, but you need to make sure that you are always available somehow, giving the support to the others. So I believe that period of COVID helped us a lot to make sure that we upgrade, with the help of technology, we upgrade the sharing of know-how in different plants. This was very, very challenging, but I enjoyed as an engineer, I really enjoyed that challenge.
Thank you, Ilkka. Eddie, in your opinion, what is the best first step to augmenting your workforce?
So I think best. I think starting small, starting with a problem that you can resolve quickly. I think is the first step is finding that problem that you can solve. And I think I wouldn't necessarily worry about, I suppose, what that problem is, but getting that problem definition down, it's like is probably the first step. I could also say go and download Tulip and get a free trial to have a go with that. But
Eddie, let me add one more thing. As a manager, if you want to make sure that digital transformation is successful in your plant, in your region, in your company, I personally would like to make sure that you have few things in place. One is that you're right, the problem solving, and the problem solving should be very, very visible to the shop floor, and you need to really eliminate this problem so that people realize the positive impact of it. But it should be very well prepared from the management as well. So today, if I need to buy a new company or launch in transformation, digital transformation, a new company, I would make sure that I have the experienced people with me. So I had a very little chance to discuss with you, but like Daniel or yourself, the experienced people who already had this digital transformation journey before, I'd like to have these guys with me, sitting next to me, not only defining the problem, but also how I can make sure that I am marketing and selling the digital tools to my team, because it's a cultural change. We started like 6-8 years ago. It's still a journey. We are not even halfway. So it's important that you make sure that you show the benefits to your team, to your shop floor, and saying that, look, in the next years, we will continuously go ahead with the digitalization. And the reason is this one. So we really need to make sure that we are explaining. I agree that having some experienced people like you, like any other team members from digitalization, without this one, you will lose years. So I prefer that to have somebody next to you is very, very useful.
I think like what I see our successful customers doing is, I think, exactly as you describe. It's like, I've called it like top down, bottom up before. It's never in one direction. It's like there is some leadership vision, a direction that they want to go, but also there's like bottom up. What's at the shop floor? What's the issue? How do we solve it? Giving people the skills to go and the tools to go and can solve those problems. I think, and like we talked about Stanley Black & Decker example that I showed, they're the sites where they've had a very big top-down initiative globally to push like digitization across many sites. But the ones that have been successful is the plants that have taken it on, really dedicated in building a local team, local citizen developers that are going to take it and own it. And you've seen those sites like grow at an accelerated rate compared to the others. The other thing that I'm seeing more and more of is like, it's like operations people that go and spend a bit of time learning about tech and like demystifying like all the language that the tech organization. So when someone's talking about AWS and the cloud and all these like buzzwords or like tech jargon, you can understand it as an operations person. And I think that's like, from a kind of exposure point of view for operations is very important, but also from like IT perspective, if I'm a plant leader in IT and I've never been on the shop floor, they're the plants where I get very worried when I'm working with. But the plant, like I've worked with one director of IT and he's literally on the shop floor every day going and like in a, like, I mean, you wouldn't really know he's an IT director. He's playing a continuous improvement manager, but with all his IT experience and tech background. And I think that is also that kind of the merging of those roles. I'm seeing more and more, at least the behavior, like understanding each other's those two kind of backgrounds and being able to collaborate and partner really effectively.
Thank you, Eddie. There's one final question. I'm conscious that we've got a minute left. So this is from Elias in the audience. The outcome of a digital transformation is more guesswork. How can management be convinced to invest in technology?
I think that if you're doing it just for not seeing value, then I would go back and say, what is the problem? What's the problem statement of what we're trying to solve? So like when we're working with customers, we see it's not digital transformation for digital transformation's sake. It's transformation because we have a significant impact on a improvement on the quality process or a significant impact on eliminating admin, like Ilka spoke about. Or we are like, you're able to improve the ramp up of a new operator to full productivity from 3 months down to 4 weeks or 3 weeks. You're able to significantly make an improvement there. So I think there always is an underlying business case, and trying to figure out what that is the key there.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Really insightful. Lots of nice comments from the people in the audience. Ilka, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join us and share some of your insights and experiences. It's a pleasure to speak with you as always. So thanks again, and we look forward to catching up with you both very, very soon.
Yeah, thanks Ilka, thanks Daniel.
Cheers, all the best.
Bye.